Heads of Government meeting, I have no doubt that it is a statement that attracted a lot of attention at home and abroad, but it is not a part of our agenda, and really it need not detain us. In the same way, the statement by the Ugandans, the statement in Uganda to which reference has been made, is also again a matter of domestic Ugandan policy and really not a matter for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. I have no doubt that in the individual countries, people have their own positions on these matters. But again, that doesn't form part of our agenda in the way we perceive it.
Can I just add something to that?
Yes.
I'd just like to add that a lot of Commonwealth voices have been raised in recent comments. One point is clear as far as the Commonwealth is concerned, Secretariat, that respect for human rights is a core Commonwealth value. And I'd like to say that we are in discussion with the Gambian side, and this continues. As far as the question about Uganda was concerned, this is the question before the Parliament, and I'm hopeful that the various voices that are exchanged within the Parliament when this issue is debated will bring forward all the considerations that are relevant, such as non-discrimination, vulnerability, and so on. And parliamentary constitutionalism is something which is strongly supported by us, and I think we must show our faith that this is a process which is going to then deliver in the end the appropriate result. Thank you.
From Reuters News Agency. Can I ask both Prime Minister Manning and Mr. Karma on the political statement that you hope to deliver before Copenhagen? What kind of statement, can you qualify, be a little more specific about what kind of statement you hope will emerge here? What kind of effect you think it'll have on Copenhagen? And why is the Commonwealth's voice important in this debate on climate change specifically?
Let me answer the last aspect of it. The Commonwealth comprises, at this time, 51 countries who are eligible to attend this Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, comprising countries from both the developed world and some of the largest polluters, to countries that are small and threatened by the effects of climate change. And therefore, a statement from countries as diverse as those that you will find in the Commonwealth is a statement that would be much more reflective of a world opinion than would otherwise be the case in other agglomerations with which we are familiar. Secondly, in a sense, the question you've asked seeks to prejudge the contributions that will be made in the summit by the individual countries. One thing that will not happen is that we will not engage in any negotiations in Port of Spain. There is a negotiating process under the auspices of the United Nations. That process has been ongoing for some time and will come to a head next month in Copenhagen under the distinguished chairmanship of the Prime Minister of Denmark. We cannot interject CHOGM into a negotiating process, a process that was not contemplated when this meeting was called in the first place. What we can do is to raise our voices politically, and having regard to our own diversity here and the extent to which, well, it's true, we represent some 2 billion people in the world. A statement, a political statement out of CHOGM is not a statement that one can take lightly. It comes with the weight of so many countries and so many people, and therefore we feel can have some effect on influencing the direction in which the discussions go in Denmark. I am anxiously awaiting the comments myself in the Heads of Government meeting, and it is arising out of what the heads say that we will fashion a statement. What is their wish, in other words? Trinidad and Tobago has its own views on this matter, and our voices will undoubtedly be heard. We will raise our voices in the meeting itself, but then we will be one of 51, so we will just have to wait to hear what the other 50 have to say.
Hello, my name is Brad Norrington. I'm the Washington correspondent for the Australian newspaper. It's most unusual for the Prime Minister of Denmark, the President of France to attend. I believe it's possible the Secretary General of the UN has attended before, but not in the role as participants at a Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Could you comment, Is this, Prime Minister, your own initiative to have invited these heads of government outside the Commonwealth? And could you explain a little about how that took place? Was the approach directly made from you, and how do they actually become participants at the Commonwealth for the climate session?
The invitation did come from the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And it followed the discussions I held with both the Secretary General of the UN and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Following those discussions, we decided to go in a particular direction because it was felt, especially at the time, that there was some concern about the direction in which the negotiations were going in respect of Copenhagen, culminating in Copenhagen next month. We also thought that we can add value and add weight to the voice of the Commonwealth countries if other non-Commonwealth agencies and countries might have been associated with us. The Prime Minister of Denmark, Prime Minister Rasmussen, is in fact the chairman of COP15 in Copenhagen. The Secretary General of the UN, it is under the auspices of the UN that all of these discussions are taking place. And the President of France, as somebody who had a point of view which he wanted to express to the Commonwealth Heads meeting here in Port-au-Prince, which we thought would be of great interest to us and which could assist us in no small measure in coming to our own conclusions on this matter. And that basically is how it came about.
Was there a possibility that the President of the United States may have attended?
Well, I couldn't talk for the President of the United States. I was aware that there was some talk along those lines, but then as of now, that is not the case.
Two more questions. Tony in the back, and then James Robbins.
Mr. Mani, notwithstanding what you said about the discussions with regard to the political statement having to take place. But I'm sure that Trinidad and Tobago and CARICOM, and indeed the smaller states, have some particular concerns that they would like to see reflected in that political statement. Can you tell us a couple of those things, please?
Well, first of all, the chairman in office of CARICOM at this time is the very distinguished President of Guyana, who is authorized to speak on behalf of the CARICOM countries. But we've discussed the climate change issue. We have discussed it. The CARICOM countries are small territories, all of whom are affected one way or the next by this issue of climate change, and in particular, the ferocity and regularity of hurricanes that we are now experiencing in the Caribbean area that have devastated not one but several of the countries of the region. So it is a source of concern to us. We have a clear position that has been outlined. I would prefer to leave the details of it. In fact, it is no different from the position of the AOSIS countries. This is small island states of the world, the chairman of whom, incidentally, is the Prime Minister of Grenada, and who will be making a statement at the special segment on climate change on behalf of the AOSIS countries. But those positions are very well known. I mean, the need to curtail the rise in temperatures, the need to curtail the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the need for a time frame in which to do all of this, the need for the use of whatever mechanisms are available to do it, and so on and so on. That story is well known, and we just wish to advise that the position of the CARICOM countries is no different from that to which you have already become accustomed.
Last question, James Robbins.
Prime Minister James Robbins from the BBC. Can you tell us if there's anything that gives you confidence that a Commonwealth outcome on climate change will do more than, frankly, reflect the deep divisions that exist within the Commonwealth about a way forward as a microcosm of the deep divisions within the world, which have already led to much lowered expectations of a Copenhagen outcome and the acceptance that it's not going to be able to put hard figures on? In other words, really, won't we just see a reflection of the wider global divisions in whatever emerges from this meeting? And more particularly about your own country, about Trinidad. In terms of emissions per capita, the measure preferred, for instance, by the Chinese, Trinidad is within the top 10 emitters per capita in the world. Do you have something to explain, as it were, and do you have
absolute emissions? China is the largest emitter in the world, followed by the United States. That's the reality of the situation. And therefore, the per capita argument